we're back. We're in Captivate here. We've got a standing man graphic, SVG graphic that we've been working with. This graphic is in the library in Captivate. We want to change this instance of this SVG and have it update back here in Captivate. So I want to open this up in Illustrator to make some changes. So I'm going to click on him here. I'm going to go to Edit SVG. He's going to open up in Illustrator. I'm going to click on here. I want to change his leg shape. Ooh. So let me click. Oh, I got to double click. There, that looks like the leg shape. Yep, I'm going to undo. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. And I'm going to put this original leg right over here. In case something goes wrong, I can always delete the one I'm working on here and bring this one back. That's my insurance. So hang on to your hats. This is something wild. Then I'm going to go over to my Adobe Illustrator Tools panel. And if you're not familiar, you're going to look for a little icon with an arrow with some little bounding box symbols. It's going to say Free Transform, and you're going to press and hold, and you're going to bring up something called Puppet Warp. Now, if you've never worked with this is kind of like silly putty, where we used to pick up an image, we'd rub it, we'd lay a piece of silly putty on the comics, peel it off, and then we could stretch and move that image that we picked up on the silly putty. Here you go. So on this image, this has a grid on it. Let me zoom up. And you can see there's little black anchor points here. Those are thumbtacks. Wherever there's a thumbtack, that graphic area is tacked down. It can't move. So in other words, if I come up here and I click on this one right here, and I have a border around it. See how I have that dotted border with that little recycling arrow going back? If I press and drag, it will allow me to stretch and reshape, ooh, you gotta be careful, a little bit of that leg. The top of the leg doesn't move because there's a thumbtack there. The foot doesn't move because there's a thumbtack there. So let's go over on here and let me take my black arrow and let me click on this leg group. Let me copy. Let me paste. Let me put my insurance one over here. Let me come back to this one. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go back to Puppet Warp, the tool, and hover over this. Now, this time, Illustrator only put in 2 thumbtacks. One here on the foot, and one here up by the hip area. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up and I'm going to put my black arrow over this existing thumbtack. And I'm going to delete it. I'm going to come down on the foot, and I'm going to click that default thumbtack, and I'm going to remove it. I want to show you how to manually put in some thumbtacks to pivot on. Now, you got to take this slow and easy, and you got to practice. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to put one right here at his knee. Now, when I go in that circle, you're going to have to experiment. And I'm going to press and drag. Okay, it looks like it pivots right off the middle there, doesn't it? Well, let me undo that little pivot. I don't want the top of the leg at the hip moving, so let's put a thumbtack up here. Now, I don't want to rotate this. I want to come down here and click on the middle of this one. I get my dotted circle or dashed, and now I can press and slowly drag this back and forth. So wherever you put a thumbtack, you can pivot. Now, here's something else. Let me move this down here. You got to work really slow. I can press and drag on these points. Press and drag. I don't do that very often. You can see why. Now, I'm going to click back on the middle one. I'm going to go inside the circle. I'm going to slowly go clockwise. So let's say we got his leg like that. I'm going to come over. I'm going to click on my zoom tool and I'm going to zoom out with my Alt or Option key and take a look at things. Let's try something else before we get out of here. Let's take the puppet tool. Let's come over here on this arm. Oh, I can't do it. I guess that isn't selected. Oh, so I have to go back to my black arrow, click on this arm, and so, I think I am in that group. Puppet tool, see what default thumbtacks are put in there. One here at the shoulder, elbow, wrist, and fingers. I think I'm going to click on the finger one and delete it. I think I'm going to come on the wrist one. I'm going to click on it, get my circle. I'm going to try, can I move his hand up? Look at that, but look how weird his arm went. So let's see if we can put another thumbtack here. Go back to this one. And can I rotate it a little bit without it distorting too much? Yeah, that's not too bad. It's just pulling the sleeve out a little bit. Okay. How about I want to bend the arm up from the elbow forward? Well, these are locked down, but they're in the right position, I think. So let me click on this one and hit delete. Whoa, can't do that. Undo. So once I manipulate something and I get it in the position I want, I need to click back on my selection arrow. And now it remembers that. Now if I want to move everything from the elbow forward, with it still selected, I can go back to the Puppet Warp. Now I can delete this one on the wrist, delete this one here, and come to this one and click. There's my circle of movement, and there you go. He's directing traffic. Come on this way. There you go. Okay, I got that the way I want it. Let's say this is, ooh, that hurt. So there's the way I want it. Go back to my black arrow. Save the file. You know it's going to update back in Captivate. And there he is. Oh, look at here. My emergencies. Let's go back to Edit SVG. Let's click on here. Delete. Click on here, get the bounding box, delete, resave it, and back to Captivate. Okay, so there's a little teaser about Puppet Warp. We may do another lesson on that, but it's something you almost have to practice on your own.